Most people wouldn't stop for a kid crying on the side of a road. Not these days. Not in that weather. But Caroline Myers wasn't most people. It was 6:47 p.m., raining hard, and the sky was already a deep shade of blue when Caroline spotted them, two silhouettes on the shoulder of Highway 24. She had just picked up her daughter Mia from piano lessons and was driving back to their modest rental home on the outskirts of town. Her heater was on, windshield wipers slapping back and forth. As she passed, the smaller figure turned toward her headlights, and that's when she saw the tears. "Mom, did you see that?" Mia said, twisting in her seat. Caroline's hands tightened around the steering wheel. For a split second, her mother instincts warred with everything else, the warnings on the news, the caution she'd been taught, the times she herself had been burned trusting strangers. But then, Mia looked up at her with those wide, innocent eyes. That was all it took. She pulled over. Caroline stepped out into the cold drizzle and called out, "Hey. Are you okay? Do you need help?" The boy, couldn't have been older than 9, stood up slowly. He was soaked through, his hair plastered to his forehead. Beside him, an elderly woman sat hunched on a plastic grocery bag, clutching a worn tote and coughing into her sleeve. The boy stepped forward and said in a shaky voice, "My grandma, she's sick. We've been waiting for a ride, but nobody came." Caroline bent down to meet his eyes. "Where's your family, sweetheart? Do you live nearby?" The boy's lip trembled. "We don't have a home right now. We've been walking all day." There was no hesitation left in Caroline. "Get in. Both of you." By the time they were all in the car, the boy had given her his name, Eli, and his grandma's name was Doris. They'd been evicted 3 weeks ago after Doris fell and broke her hip. She'd been unable to return to her cleaning job, and Eli's mom, wherever she was, hadn't answered their calls in over a year. Caroline couldn't believe what she was hearing. She glanced at Mia, who was quietly offering her snack bar to Eli. The boy took it like he hadn't eaten in days. They reached her home, a small 2-bedroom duplex with an untrimmed yard and a creaky screen door. She wasn't rich, far from it. Caroline worked double shifts as a cashier and freelance copywriter at night just to keep the lights on. But there was heat, dry clothes, and soup in the pantry. She let them shower. Found Mia's old pajamas for Eli and a clean nightgown for Doris. The elderly woman moved slow, every motion etched with pain, but her eyes were gentle. Later that night, after everyone was settled in makeshift beds, Eli on the couch, Doris in Mia's room, Caroline stayed up, staring at the rain streaking her window. What had she just done? Was she making a mistake? What if they were hiding something? But something about the boy's eyes had reminded her of a time not long ago, when she'd been left alone with a baby and nothing but a battered suitcase. She knew what desperation looked like. It didn't lie. The next morning started like any other. She made pancakes, stretching what was left of the mix, and poured orange juice into plastic cups. Mia was brushing her hair while Eli sat at the table, hungrily devouring breakfast. Doris was slower to rise but eventually shuffled in, grateful, asking how she could help clean or cook. It was calm. Simple. A strange kind of peace Caroline hadn't felt in months. Until 9:12 a.m. There was a deep rumble outside, followed by a car door slamming. Caroline peeked through the blinds, and her heart sank. A black SUV. Windows tinted. Government plates. She didn't recognize it. But she knew trouble when she saw it. She opened the door before they could knock. 2 men in dark jackets stood on her porch, one middle-aged, clean-shaven, holding a clipboard. The other, younger, tall, with alert eyes scanning the interior of her home. "Caroline Myers?" the older one asked. "Yes," she said slowly, her voice guarded. "We're with a private humanitarian agency," the man said, flashing a badge that looked official but not government. We're here about the boy. Eli. Caroline's blood ran cold. She didn't call anyone. No one could have known. Who sent you? She asked. The man exchanged a quick look with his partner. We're not here to cause harm, ma'am. We've been trying to track Eli and his grandmother for 2 weeks. Someone very important is looking for them. And we were told they might be in danger. Danger? Caroline repeated, her voice rising. Before the men could answer, Eli stepped into the hallway, rubbing his eyes. When he saw the SUV, he froze. No, he whispered. No, please. Don't take us. Don't send us back. Caroline immediately stepped in front of him. You're not taking anyone anywhere, she snapped. Not without explaining what's going on. The agents hesitated. Finally, the older one said, you deserve the truth. But it's not simple. May we come in? Caroline took a breath, then nodded. She ushered them to the kitchen, where Doris was now sitting up, watching everything with quiet intensity. The man took out a photo and placed it on the table. It was of Eli. Standing in front of a brick house. A younger woman beside him, clearly his mother. She disappeared a year ago, he said. Fell in with the wrong people. We believe she was part of a trafficking ring, moved money and identities. When she vanished, we thought Eli was gone too. But last week, someone tipped us off. We followed the trail to your town. And why does that concern your agency? Caroline asked. Because, the man said, Eli isn't just some lost kid. His grandfather was a very powerful man. A man who made enemies. There's a bounty on any blood relative. And right now, Eli and his grandma are safer with us than on the streets. Caroline shook her head. He's a child. And he's been through enough. We don't disagree. That's why we need your help. You already took them in. You gave them safety. Now we need to move them somewhere secure, before whoever's looking for them finds out where they are. Silence filled the kitchen. Eli clung to Caroline's leg, trembling. Doris looked like she was holding her breath. Caroline looked at him, then back at the men. I won't let you take him unless he wants to go, she said firmly. You want to protect him? Then let him choose. Eli looked up at her, tears in his eyes. I don't want to go. I feel safe here. The younger agent stepped forward. Then we work with you. Temporarily. But we'll be nearby. Just in case. And with that, the black SUV pulled away. Caroline stood on her porch, heart pounding, 100 questions racing through her mind. Who were these people? Why was Eli really in danger? And how had her quiet life suddenly become the center of something so big, so unknown? She didn't know the answers. Not yet. But she knew one thing. This boy had been placed on her path for a reason. And she wasn't going to turn her back now. By that afternoon, Caroline had already noticed a difference in her street. There was a beige sedan parked just down the block. It hadn't been there the day before. A man sat inside pretending to scroll on his phone. He didn't glance toward her house, not once. But Caroline could feel the watchfulness. The agents hadn't lied. They were nearby. Caroline stood at the sink rinsing a pot, her eyes drifting to the window every few minutes. Inside, the house hummed with quiet. Mia and Eli were building something with blocks on the floor. He was smiling now, even laughing softly. And Doris, exhausted, was asleep on the recliner, a knitted blanket over her legs and a heating pad against her lower back. It was all so normal. So painfully fragile. She wasn't prepared for this. Later that evening, once the kids were asleep, Caroline sat at the small kitchen table, staring at the printout the agents had left. It was an official-looking briefing about a man named Victor Serrano, Eli's grandfather. A former diplomat turned whistleblower, Victor had exposed one of the largest international money laundering schemes connected to arms trafficking a decade ago. Shortly after, he vanished from the public eye, and so did his daughter, Eli's mom. Apparently, Victor had enemies. Dangerous ones. And if any of them learned that Eli was alive. Caroline pushed the papers away. She didn't want to believe any of it. But the look in Eli's eyes when he saw the SUV, that was real. She heard a sound behind her. Turning, she found Doris standing in the hallway, holding onto the wall for support. "You shouldn't be up," Caroline said gently. "I couldn't sleep," Doris said. "Too much on my mind." Caroline helped her sit down. The older woman's eyes were heavy, but alert. "You know they're telling the truth, don't you?" Doris said quietly. Caroline nodded slowly. "I do. But I don't know what to do next." "I do," Doris said. "You listen to that little boy. He trusts you. That means something." "The last year's been hell, Caroline. Living in shelters, sleeping in buses. I've seen things I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But Eli never gave up. He kept holding on." She paused, her voice trembling. "We were 2 days away from giving up. And then you stopped your car." Caroline felt tears prick her eyes. "Doris, I don't have much. I really don't. You gave him a home for one night. That's more than anyone else did in a year." They sat in silence for a while. The kind of silence that wraps around you, deep and understanding. Caroline realized in that moment that this wasn't temporary. No matter what the agent said, this was her fight now too. The next day, everything shifted again. Around noon, Eli was outside with Mia, playing with a frisbee on the front lawn. Caroline was watching from the porch when another car pulled up. Not the beige one. This was a rusted red pickup truck with mismatched plates. The driver was a thin man in his late 20s, unshaven, with darting eyes. He leaned out the window and called, "Eli." The boy froze. Caroline shot up from her chair, heart pounding. "Eli, come here," she called, stepping onto the lawn. The man ignored her. "Eli. I've been looking for you. Get in the truck, buddy. Your mom sent me." Eli took a step back. "She wouldn't send anyone," he said quietly. The man's face twitched. "Come on, kid. Don't make this hard." Caroline didn't think. She ran forward and put herself between Eli and the truck. "You need to leave," she said firmly. "Now." But the man opened the door like he was about to get out. Before he could move, a second vehicle roared up from behind. The beige sedan. 2 agents jumped out. One of them shouted, "Down. Step away from the truck." The man raised his hands immediately. "I didn't touch him," he said. "I was just trying to talk." The agents moved fast. Within seconds, the man was cuffed and being walked to their vehicle. Caroline held Eli close as he trembled. The agent who had visited her the day before approached. "That man was spotted at a bus station last week, asking questions about the Serrano family," he said. "You did the right thing." "I didn't do anything," Caroline said, shaking. "I was too slow." "No," he replied. "You were exactly fast enough." After the truck was towed and the street cleared, Caroline took Eli back inside. She could see the fear hadn't left him. "Are they going to come back?" he asked. Caroline knelt down. "Not if I can help it." That evening, while she was washing dishes, Mia asked the question Caroline had been avoiding. "Mom, is Eli going to stay with us forever?" She dried her hands and looked at her daughter. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I hope so." And then something unexpected happened. The next morning, the black SUV returned. But this time, no urgency. No agents with briefcases. Just a man in a suit, and a woman in a tailored gray coat. Both smiled gently when Caroline answered the door. "We're not here to move them," the woman said. "We're here to thank you." Caroline blinked. "What?" The man extended an envelope. "Victor Serrano is alive. In hiding, yes. But he's been informed his grandson is safe. He wants to thank you personally. And he's asked us to provide something more permanent." Caroline opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. Alongside it, a deed. To a house. A real house. In their town. Fully paid for. I don't understand," Caroline whispered. "You saved his family. This is his way of saving yours." Her knees almost gave out. "I can't accept this," she said. "You already did," the woman replied. "When you opened your door." Eli peeked from behind the hallway, his eyes wide with wonder. Later that night, Caroline read the letter again. It was full of gratitude and hope. And a promise that Eli would always be protected. As she tucked the boy into bed, he whispered, "Do we have a home now?" She brushed the hair from his forehead and smiled. "Yes, baby. We do." He smiled, then drifted to sleep. And Caroline sat at the edge of the bed, tears rolling silently down her cheeks, not because of fear, or worry, or exhaustion. But because she finally understood. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can alter the course of not one life, but many. Sometimes, a single moment of compassion can change everything. And when the world feels too big, too cruel, too broken to fix, sometimes, all it takes is opening your door.